Everybody, I want to talk about when you should take the risk. We know that for nearly any reward received, there's a risk involved. Therefore, some of the more important questions are when you should take the risk and when the reward is worth it. Only you can tell if the reward is worth it, but in general, you should be aware of the following when determining whether you should take the risk. First, when you know everything you can possibly know. You can know the histories, the players, the research. Of course, you never know anything. Donald Rumsfeld, the former Secretary of Defense, once said there's known and unknowns. And that's true in research. Some things you can research and find out. Others you can research and never find out. But what's important when you try to make a risk, when you try to take a risk, is you should know everything that you should possibly know, which means you have to spend the time to do the often boring and tedious roles of research that are required to make sure you have the necessary information to make a more competent decision. Second, you should take the risk when you can calculate the odds, when you can calculate the risk. Most risks are calculated. If it's not calculated, if it's not a risk, we call it uncertainty. That means it's often unknown. But again, most risks that you take are calculated. For instance, if you go to Las Vegas, you can calculate your odds of winning at poker, at blackjack, at nearly any game that's played. The odds, of course, are not in your favor. That's why there's a Las Vegas and other casinos across the nation and world. The odds often favor the house. But when you're trying to make a decision, you need to calculate as best you can the risks. Ask someone else to calculate them as well, because sometimes your own math may benefit you if you think that you should take an action or not take an action. But you try to calculate the odds. Third is that you should never fear failure or what others think. It's appropriate to take the risk when you don't fear failure, when you've done everything you can and you realize that some failure may be experienced. But if you don't fear failure, your life and the life that you live can open up great possibilities. Likewise, you should not fear what other people think. What other people think can be one of the most destructive attributes that a person can ever possess, because you hold the key as to whether you believe or follow what someone else thinks. Never live your life in someone else's mind or opinion. Choose your own path in life, and never let others deter whether you journey that path or not. And last, the last consideration is whether you can live with the outcome, whether positive or negative. When you make a decision, especially when the odds are low, you often don't know the exact outcome, but you can predict with some certainty what could occur. You could either win or lose. You could either make a bunch of money or lose a bunch of money. And you should take a risk when you can live with the outcome either way. So those are the 4 aspects I would consider when you try to determine whether you should take the risk. When you know everything that you can, when you can calculate the odds of success or failure, when you've determined and come at peace with yourself that you can never fear failure or what other people think, and lastly, when you can live with the outcome, again, whether positive or negative. I've long believed that great accomplishments and great rewards often come with great sacrifice. I also believe that failure is often the consequence of daring to touch the stars, but on those few occasions when the stars are touched, the world brightens from its luster. I hope you never shy from taking the risk, for it's the only way to make a difference. Thanks, everybody.